Oh, this is my graphics card. Here is my Dragon Ball Z controller. This is my amiibo. And this is... What the hell is that?
I love playing old 8-bit NES games, not necessarily due to some sort of nostalgic feeling as I was born over 10 years after the NES was released, but more just because of the fact that a lot of these games are classics that are still fun to play despite the vast enhancements of gaming technology over the years. So with this in mind, you would probably be expecting me to be oozing with excitement over Nintendo's recently released NES Classic Edition. Well, surprisingly, I'm not. Sure, it's a cool little device with some decent games, but a device like this is not something new to me, other than the nice little GUI, the HDMI output, and the fact it's an officially licensed product. Let me take you back to about 2005. This is when retro gaming started to become trendy. Certain less than official companies from China wanted to get in on the new goldmine of retro throwbacks. The Famicom, or the Japanese NES, was a very common console in Asian countries, and because of this it became very easy for pirates to replicate the entire hardware of a Famicom on a single chip. Chinese companies would take this chip and put it into various molds and then ship them off to the US, where they would be sold in dollar stores, shady flea markets, and more commonly mall kiosks, which was where I always saw them. These things sold like there was no tomorrow at the time, and how could they not? They claimed to have like 1 million games in them. Oh my god, I won the Chinese lottery, boys! Of course the reality was that it would have like 40 to 50 unique games and thousands of hacked ROMs of said games. Now sure, these are cheaply put together and likely violate several safety regulations, but at the time, having a device to play a bunch of the classics was awesome. This was before the time everyone had a smartphone that you could easily download emulators on, before Walmart had a self-checkout line, before the teenage stoner working at the McDonald's drive-thru would give you a $1 menu cheeseburger when you specifically asked for a Big Mac, before assholes could download and then upload a Pizza Hut commercial to YouTube and make money off of it. Yeah, life was so much better back then. As I said earlier, these companies would shove these Famiclone chips in various different molds they had lying around. Ones that I commonly saw were made with the mold of a Nintendo 64 controller. They even kept in an analog stick, which was just there for decoration and had no actual functionality, though there were others shaped like Genesis controllers and ones designed off the PlayStation, but under the disc tray would be a slot to insert Famicom carts. Sure, these are shameless ripoffs, but at least you can tell they're supposed to be some kind of video game playing device. But evidently there weren't enough of these molds to last when they began production on the 2010 Power Games, which was made with the mold of a penguin. I can only think that there weren't enough game-related molds to go around, or these pirates felt that Nintendo would turn a blind eye to a penguin-shaped device. Surely they wouldn't believe it to be a bootleg game console of some sort. Too bad the box would confirm any and all suspicions to be true. We get faux screenshots, grammatical snafus, the whole 9 yards. Let's see what we have in this little package of joy. The console comes with 2 controllers, one that's wireless and another that you plug into the console itself for multiplayer games. You get a light gun that isn't going to work at all on modern televisions, cords that will probably catch on fire if you leave them plugged in for more than 5 minutes, and last but not least, Chilly Willy himself. If you look on the back, you'll find a 60-pen Famicom slot, meaning that you can play all of your Famicom games on this. As for why you would want to is beyond me. Though if you're like me and don't really own any Famicom games, this console actually has quite a number of games built in, so how about we risk creating a fire hazard and plug this in? Fucking hell. Listen to that humming. This is an explosion just waiting to happen. This screen claims that the system contains 111 games, and for the most part they are unique games, so I'll give them credit where it's due. I'm not gonna take a look at every game individually because we would be here for a while, but I will take a look at a few games here that are in my opinion interesting choices. First off, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters. I wasn't even aware that this game existed, and honestly it felt like a bootleg bootleg game at first, but as it turns out, this is actually a real game, no matter how hard it is for me to believe it. I'm no fighting game aficionado, but I'm pretty sure anybody would cringe at the thought of playing a fighting game with a 2-button controller. With this in mind, it plays about as well as you would expect. I'll just stick to the Turtles beat-em-ups, thank you very much. Yep, you're reading that right. The next game is called Harry Potter. Let's check it out. It's not exactly uncommon for these to include bootleg games for obvious reasons. Games like Fighter 12 Peoples, which is, you know. And then there's these weird homebrew games like Ice Ocean. I don't even quite understand this one. I assume you have to aim your shots up at the rocks above so that they'll fall on one of the fish, but the fish just keep respawning, so I have no idea if I'm missing something here. What will probably be most intriguing to collectors is that there are quite a few games on here that were never released in the US, like Devil World, Shigeru Miyamoto's Pac-Man clone that never made it here due to censorship. We may have gotten ports of Dig Dug in the US, but for whatever reason Namco never ported the game to the NES. Ah yes, the classic arcade game where you play as a homicidal maniac who has to look beyond DeviantArt to satisfy his inflation fetish. Okay, it's not too interesting. I'm sure we've all played Dig Dug at some point, but hey, it's cool to have this port at the very least. Here's something a tad bit more obscure. Macross, which is based on the classic anime of the same name. It's a very basic shmup with stiff movement, but for an early Famicom game it's pretty passable. Then we have Moyajin. Right. So the burning question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind right now, is this a good alternative to a real Famicom? Well, as far as the controller is concerned, it actually works better than I thought it would. As I've said before, it's wireless, and it uses the same kind of technology that TV remotes use, and with that in mind I expected it to be unplayable, but it was honestly pretty responsive. Now, the controller itself isn't that good, but it will work. I don't really own any Famicom cartridges, so I can't test any games for compatibility issues, but one noticeable issue I noticed all across the board with this system is the sound. Aside from the obnoxious humming, everything just sounds wrong. Though where this thing does have an advantage over the original Famicom is that it connects to the TV via composite cables, whereas the original system only connected through RF. Granted, it's a very weak composite signal, but the point still stands. Though with all of this said, I still can't recommend this. When I played this thing for about 30 minutes and unplugged it, the AC adapter was unusually hot. And I'm not saying it'll catch on fire, but I am saying that it's probably not a very safe idea to leave this thing plugged in for any amount of time. If this product serves any purpose, it's that it makes an interesting conversation piece. And I'm sure that inserting a cartridge into a penguin-shaped console would look quite humorous to some. But if you're just looking for a way to easily play hundreds of NES games, it's 2017, so go download an emulator or something. That just about does it, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I've been FumeiCom, and I'll see you guys at the same time, same place, different game.